With over 48,000 residents trapped in their homes, many running short on food, medication, utilities, and without utilities, the San Bernardino County Fire and Incident Management Team was activated to mitigate, control, and manage the incident of growing complexity. The presentation will highlight the specific challenges presented to first responders and the communities while focusing on the strategies used to organize the response, establish actionable situational awareness, and communicate clearly to all stakeholders in the hub. Our presenters, our Battalion Chief Steve Tracy has been a fire service professional for 29 years. As a chief officer for over 5, he currently serves in the Northwest Divisions of the San Bernardino County Fire District. Early during the winter storms, Chief Tracy was assigned as the Division Group Soup in the areas of Lake Arrowhead and supervised the coordination and setup of the regional rescue task force. Our next with Steve is Erin Opliger. I should be able to say that. Of course, I always just said Rocky all the time. Erin is a special projects leader for San Bernardino County Fire Protection District, overseeing the department's data analytics, intelligence applications, and mapping projects. For the past couple of years, she has served as the lead GIS specialist for California Federal Incident Management Team 15, responding to numerous all-hazard incidents throughout the western United States. Erin is also a member of the Fire Scope GIS Subcommittee and works as a fire behavior modeler with the Wi-Fi program of UC San Diego and OES Fire Fusion Settings. Steve and Erin.
Thank you, Chief Tracy, for the introduction. So Erin and I are going to tag team this, but first I'd like to thank the association for inviting Fire District to do this presentation. Normally our Fire Chief, Dan Muncie, does this, but unfortunately he had other engagements in DC. So I pulled the short end of the stick. But here I am, and special thanks to my friend and colleague, Guy Thompson, fellow volunteering, told me to do this. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. Some of you may have seen this presentation by Chief Muncie. I learned a long time ago to know your audience. So other than going into the administrative aspects of it, some of the challenges that they had administratively with this incident, I'll speak a little bit about it, but I'm really going to just talk about the operational aspect of it. Some of the challenges that I got as a division trainee with my mentor, Nathan. Thank you for signing my task book on. And some of the challenges that the troops on the ground had in this environment. It's important to note before I get started, so the last major snowstorm that affected the mountaintop was in the early 70s. And it was about 4.5 light feet is what they got. And it closed the schools down, closed some stores down, but we also have to remember that the population up on the mountaintop was a lot less back then. And it was still used for recreational use, but not like it is today. And those did create some challenges, especially with the VRBO population. Yeah, that's it. So February storms, the operational perspective. So the storm event. So there's 100+ inches of snow that fell in the period of February 22nd to about the 26th. But it wasn't necessarily the total amount, it was the accumulation in a short period of time that really caused problems. There was 50,000+ residents affected, and we had about 518 fire and EMS CAD responses. There was actually quite a bit more than that because we'll talk a little bit more in the presentation with social media and our joint information center calls it APG. 2,000 direct contacts were made. It was well over that for sure. It was hard to get that essay as we were carried through over the 2-week period of time. And then 1,600 reported structures damaged, some of them severely in rapid reportation. So the sequence of events. So February 19th, we were watching the weather report as we usually do in the forecast, and our fast group, our storm watch group within, it encompasses all the divisions within the county, get together. They have these frequent ops calls every morning. So we knew that we had a significant storm that was coming around the 20th, 22nd. So they activated the FAST and the EOC, and then we split up the areas into 4 geographical areas, all the way from Mount Baldy, all the way through the San Bernardino National Forest, the Big Bear, Angelosos, and down Highway 38. So February 20th to 24, we didn't get much on the 20th. I recall the 22nd gave us our first onslaught. This was a series of 12 atmospheric storms that they were predicting that okay. And it varied from different variations of snowfall. They underestimated it all, we'll just say it. So personnel, we placed personnel strategically. We had swift water teams, we had our dozers, we had our hand crews spread out throughout those 4 geographical areas, anticipating weather events to take place. And nothing that happened on the 22nd was a surprise, right? It affected the services with roads a little bit, but it wasn't anything that they couldn't handle. They were slow going in some areas because of the narrow roads up in the mountains, and I believe it was somewhere between 6 to 12 inches of snow. Not a big deal. We can handle that, right? Well, it was cold, so a lot of that snow stuck around. So we coordinated with our county EOC and Red Cross during this period of times in case we had to use some evacs. Typically, we were talking at the time the El Dorado burn scar, and that's in Angelosos area. We were paying attention to the rainfall to make sure that we weren't going to have any issues up there. So we activated the EOC, and then we got FAST, which is the Field Area Safety Task Force, and then the storm day on the 22nd. So not a big deal. Few calls for service due to the storm, but nothing critical. Well, then comes February 25th and 26th. Nobody anticipated that. In my 29 years, I've never faced anything like this at all. The challenges that we were faced with, which we didn't know until about the 27th, 28th, were significant, especially when you have a workforce that's never experienced any kind of disaster like this. I think the best way to describe this is think of a major earthquake lasting over 2 to 3 days, with big shaker, little shaker, and then all the damage and responses that are necessary after something like that. You could relate this to that. But we weren't thinking that because none of us had seen it. So around the 27th, the CDC, the countywide duty chief, started getting some situational awareness reports from the battalion chief up at Battalion 6, which is the mountaintop, about the responses. We didn't have enough resources up there to handle it, nor could anybody get anywhere. The engines were buried in the apparatus for 8.5 feet of snow. Now, we have equipment up there for that. We have loaders and we have skid steers and things to manage that, but not 100 inches of snow in a 24-hour period. The guys, they said they just couldn't keep up with it. The roads people couldn't keep up with it. And it wasn't just happening in Lake Erin. It was happening everywhere on the mountaintop, the Cumberland Pass, Wrightwood, all the way to Big Bend. So the resources for Caltrans, they did the best they could and trying to clear the highway, but they couldn't keep up with us. We didn't put our county roads people. So people were stuck. So the only way we could respond to calls is our snowcats. So as we move forward with that, on the 27th, Jeff Birchfield, our duty chief at the time, called the fire chief and said, hey, we're going to have to support the resources up on the mountaintop. I recommend we activate at least a short team from our IAT to help support logistics and some IAPs and operations. As time went on, we started getting injects from social media, people calling politicians that they were trapped buried 10 feet in their homes. They needed to make it to their dialysis appointments. I'm out of medication. Hey, I'm just up here on vacation. I don't even have enough clothes. For real, those were calls that we were getting. So, along with my iguana's out of food, need to get down the hill to get to the pet store. So we knew that we weren't going to be able to handle this with what we had on the mountaintop, even in our pre-deployment personnel. So they activated the IMT, the full IMT, and then a day later, we realized this isn't a type 3 incident. This is probably going to be a type 1 as we move forward. This video is from Intel 24. I believe this was done on March 1st, and it will give you an idea of the scope and the magnitude.
Okay. Oh yes, L24, so now it's March 2nd, 323, and left 48 hours.
For a storm incident, San Bernardino County Fire Jurisdiction. We're looking at Lake Gregory Road and Drive. As you can see, most of the main roads have been plowed and are opened up pretty good. As we look around here, we do see some of the surface streets that haven't been plowed or need to be plowed again. A lot of smaller driveways and private drives that need to be plowed. Working our way down towards Arrowhead Highlands here. As you look at the community camp, there's been some plow work in there, but hard to tell if it needs to be done again. Working our way back up towards Skyland and Crestland here. All of the surface streets in there, we can zoom in on some structures. You can see there's quite a few of them that have been worked, smaller drives once again, perhaps have not. And back up into Crestline area here. Vehicles traveling and video.
So that just kind of touches the surface, but kind of gives you an idea. As we move into the teams, we started on with a short team. We knew we were going to need a ops chief and a couple divisions and planning section. That was working. But as the information started filtering in, we did open up. We had a PSOP, a smaller PSOP on the mountaintop at Station 91, and that's pretty much where the battalion chief was running and triaging the incidents. And the intel coming out of there was this is much greater than what we would be able to handle. And we started bringing in key members from the Type 1, in fact, 2 teams, and building the whole process. The other thing was cost, right? So who's going to pay for all this? Well, but disaster declaration hadn't been declared as of yet because we really didn't know exactly the extent because we didn't get anywhere to look at anything or try and get any estimate on the various locations on the mountaintop. So the fire chief went to the board and the CEO and he literally got to negotiate for some money. Initially, they gave him $1 million. Aaron gets $1 million. And he basically told him, yeah, I'm going to blow through that in 24 hours. So I need more. We need a lot of equipment. So they settled on $10 million initially, and they knew that this was going to be a much bigger deal. So he started the process to declare a disaster. So in the beginning, when we thought we didn't have any cost limits, sky's the limit, right? So, but eventually, as you'll see when we get into the resource pool, the cost went up tremendously, quickly. So So the transition from the type 4 incident to type 2 back to 100% the type 1 incident was integrated into the incident. And then obviously the integration of unified command. So important with us. Some of the people that we had to integrate into the unified command system was our public works department. Well, these folks, they don't really deal with ICS very much. So it's ego and empires, right? Hey, this is what we do. This is all we do. If you need help with this, then we could probably do it. Remember, it was an education. And we didn't have a lot of time to do it. So there was some feelings that got hurt. But at the end of the day, it all worked out. And I can't say enough on the partners that we had and our cooperators in regards to Caltrans, the gas company. They have their own IT teams. They understand things and those types of things. So that wasn't really an issue. It was really an issue on the county side. Like, we really didn't work with some of our other partners and divisions within the county on ICS. So that's one lesson now. At least
We sacrificed this team.
so we knew we needed to establish priorities right away and set our objectives. We didn't know what all of those would be just yet until we started moving around the incident. So the cool thing about this incident, no pun intended, but it was static. It wasn't really moving, but it was growing in complexity by the hour. When there's roughly 48,000 people that live up there permanently, according to the last census, but we figured there was about 60 to 65,000 people up there, either VRBO again or visiting family or what have you. Because of the snowfall on the 22nd, people started migrating up to the mountains, right, for skiing and snowfighting and that. And so there was quite a few people up there that typically come unprepared, right? They didn't buy extra food. They didn't bring extra medication because they were only planning on being there for a few days. So all of those things came into play as we were working through this. The other thing was we have a lot of camps up there, Christian camps, Girl Scout, Boy Scout camps. And Holly Mountain had approximately 160 kids up there. They were warned to leave, come down the mountain that we were expecting from the weather, and they just chose to shelter in place. Bad decision, obviously. So what ends up happening now, nobody can come up the mountain. Roads are shut down. There's no access to go up the mountain. And we can't get in them. So what do you think happens, right? Parents start calling politicians, parents start calling anybody that they call that will listen. And so that created those types of things happen constantly during this incident, which caused a lot of pressure and changed priorities due to political pressures. So we eventually did get them out. We had a whole plan. We were going to airlift them out. We were going to eventually we were able to partner up with our cooperators, get the roads clear, and then we got them escorted off the mountain with CHP and some heavy equipment. Part of the other objectives were, obviously protect life and property and then clear the roads. For me, in my division, I had everything from Twin Peaks pretty much to the border of Running Springs and the hospital. We have one hospital up there. We could not get any patients to the hospital without a CPAP. Well, at the time up there, we only had 6 snowcats up there at the time. So we're running medical aid after medical aid, people trapped, the elderly, some folks that were seriously ill on hospice. They needed to get to the hospital, and we couldn't get it. So that was one of our priorities, was to open up the main thoroughfares to the hospitals, gas stations, and the grocery stores. We just needed more equipment. We didn't have that equipment. So, and then the gas leaks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that because that was probably one of my biggest challenges was the gas leaks. I knew going up there, I had seen the reports that there's gas leaks everywhere on the mountainside. But at the time, Southern California Gas only had 2 techs up there at the time. So they thought they were isolated to bigger mains in their system. And going into the village, going to the PSOC at 91s, I could smell the gas. Now, the first thing I said, hey, there's a major gas leak. Did we check our gas at the fire station? So they said, yeah, it's all over, especially down Puffle Canyon off of 18. So I said, well, we need to get on that. So I report that out to ops. And they said, yeah, the gas company is working on putting teams together, getting people from SoCal and up there to start working. Well, that's great, but we all know what happens with gas. It finds an emission zone. And they did. Around the 29th, we got our first couple of fires, gas-related fires. One was a major explosion. You'll see a picture here in a second. And so we knew this was going to be a problem, but we weren't really sure why, right? We weren't understanding what was happening until a bunch of NJ stuff. So moving forward, we started, we brought up a Type 3 strike team with chains, Type 6 strike team with chains, and just to help the firefighting force. But still, at that time, we didn't have all the roads clear, right? So what did we have to fight these fires? Snowcats. And so the snowcats would start laying forage in the back of the snowcats and shovels to dig out the hydrants, and that's how we fought at least the first 3 or 4 fires until we were able to get some roads cleared. So what we found out with this is that 8 feet of snow puts about 160 pounds of pressure in 1 square foot. So we had an average in some areas 8.5, some areas 10.5 feet of snow around these homes. So the weight of the snow was shearing the gas meters at the elbow into the homes. And then that gas would start traveling and pocketing underneath the snow. And then as the sun, heat ball would come up and melt a little bit of the snow, it would create some holes, the gas would escape. And then as Edison was restoring power, they did a great job in some areas, but the areas that they restored power first in, it's the areas we were getting fires. And it was happening between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. every single day. Nate and I, we would travel down the hill for our ops meeting, and I hear a structure fire go out in my division. Right? So I'm like, why is this happening? Always between 4 and 7 o'clock. Well, our arson investigators have 2 hypotheses. One, the electrical, as the temperatures dropped, the heaters started kicking on, the LELs were just perfect, and boom, we're off the race. Yeah, fine. The other was the security lights. They feel that some of those lights that weren't using LED bulbs and older electrical bulbs created enough of the spark in the LED to cause the onset. So that was another challenge as we moved forward. So, but we came up, the ingenuity on this incident was amazing. So, we knew we needed to deal with the gas leaks. So I didn't come up with this, but I love the idea. One of my captains on the strike team said, hey, why are we waiting for this team of gas guys? We're gonna burn 100 homes down and waiting for these gas guys to go in there. So he said, hey, why don't I take an engine and I'll take a gas tank and we'll start hunting down these gas leaks as the intel comes in on where they're leaking from. Because it wasn't as simple as going in and finding the gas meter and then shutting off the gas. One, we had to find out where the gas meter was in 8 feet of snow. And then 2, we know we're going into a confined space, right? And our guys aren't trained on how to pinch off a gas line. So what we would do is we gave the gas tech our PPE. He'd already knew how to read out of an SCBA because they have the list. And we teamed him up, and so I needed a call sign for him. So Of course, somebody in the group said gas wiper 1. And so throughout the incident, we had gas wiper 1, gas wiper 2, gas wiper 3, all throughout the mountain, throughout the first day, this became a thing. And then they even took this concept after our incident to mitigate. Well, I'm going to go backwards far because I want to show you. It's probably hard to see. I probably got a better picture, but this is some of them digging in the snow into the gas meter. And they were locating the gas meters based on Google Earth. So they would Google Earth the area that they were in and then zoom in on the picture and figure out basically where the gas meters were around those homes. And that's the snow cap going to one of the structure fires.
Yes,
And then Operation Arctic Snake, with our CAL FIRE partners, we have several crews, Operation Rattlesnake with the National Guard guys. So somebody the next day or 2 days later came up with that gas wiper logo, right? We leave it to firefighters. So the National Guard guys got pissed and they said, well, hey, do you mind, Chief, if we create our own? I said, yeah, as long as it's not offensive. So that's what they came up with. So we made that a t-shirt. The lighter one is the over the pocket one, and then the back's the video. Just to help them out. These guys were freezing their tails off and soaking wet most of the days. So the ordering methodology was interesting, learning curve for me. I've never really dealt with state mission tasking before. But none of this would happen without the cooperation of partnerships and stuff like this, right? How are you instead of who are you? All of those relationships were built long before this incident happened, and so with collaboration of our cooperators, CAL FIRE, we were able to work with Cal OES and start getting resources into the incident and under state mission tasking for the crews, Cal Guard, and some overhead. And their mobile kitchen unit at the ICP. Heavy equipment, front loaders and dump trucks. So again, my first having to deal with dump trucks, I've been on fires where dumps, loaders, and skid steers, and those types of things, but dump trucks. So I had at one point 10 loaders, 10 dump trucks, a couple skid steers, snowmobiles from Fish and Game, in my condition, and then what comes with that is some of you may know that when you have contractors, they don't always come prepared, right? So, and on the mission tasking side of it, they don't necessarily have the same parameters as we do on the wildlife side. But what do you guys think was the biggest challenge for these contractors that were coming in with this heavy equipment? Get chains. Who said chains? Yes, no chains. So they were required, and said in the contracts that they needed to come with chains. Does anybody know how much a set of chains for a dump truck costs?
$2,000.
So, who said what?
$2,000.
$2,000? Try 20 grand. 20 grand.
That was a markup.
You got screwed.
And it's up to 40,000. It depends on the size of the dump truck. So try to find 8 strike team worth of chains for dump trucks in Southern California. So we literally had to call a manufacturer in Maryland, fly him out here with all of his gear, and made chains for every one of those dump trucks. At $20,000 a pop, which the contractor had to pay for. But they were willing to do that because they got guaranteed work, and I don't know what they paid, but they paid for it, and we made chains at the ICP, this manufacturer work. So those were some of the logistical challenges, not to mention that most of the drivers had no clue on how to drive this stuff, which made it it was very difficult operationally because I had to get them off the mountain before the sun went down because we were worried about black ice and them coming down the highway. And then they had to stop, take their chains off, which was a whole other debacle, and then when they came up the next morning, they had to put them back on. So we literally had to have order tech specs that knew how to put chains on, put the chains on for the contractor so they could go do the works.
Empty closet.
You can't make this shit up. So, then our USAR resources. We had no clue that we were going to have a USAR problem that we did. We initially ordered up our RTF with just a 15-person crew, mainly to do damage assessments and those types of things. Small shoring on patios, because we did get reports of patios collapsing and stuff, but it ended up being far worse than that. We had total roof collapses, as you guys know, Goodwin's store pancaked, and that caused also some additional problems with the food.
What's all
I'll take it in a second. So, management the management challenges. So our EOC and our county OES, really at the time, we have new leadership now, but at the time there wasn't a lot of effort put into training these people and working and integrating within the ICS system on a major incident. Our county OES used to be a part of the fire district, and it's since that it changed. So with that, high risk, low frequency type stuff, they would do drills, but nothing to be able to manage about this magnitude. So there was a lot of robust discussions between county ODS and fire district. And once the team was activated, there had to be serious conversations and education on what their role is and what the IMT's role is. And again, some people got their feelings hurt. But in the midst of all that, it caused the debates and studies. So again, it's another lesson here. So that's since been rectified. And then the operational resource tasking and the various resources. So like I said, originally we were using the USAR teams, that 15-person team, to try to do some pre-damage assessment and get intel to Erin and her team. But it ended up being that they actually had to engage and start working on effects of risk and take people out, shore up their homes. So we eventually pulled the entire 30-person team. We had to reach out to our cooperators for the USAR qualified people and the structure specialists out in Orange County. We pulled up everybody in and made that kind of a separate entity in the insert. And then the public messaging and information portion. I can't, that's always important on any incident to get ahead of it and be able to control the narrative. This was out of control and in the beginning of the way. So social media, there's a lot of neighborhood groups and associations that are up on the mountaintop that can be at times, politically charged, and they were politically charged, a lot of them. So social media was a huge deal with this, and a lot of false information getting out there, especially after the grocery stores. We lost Jensen's and Blue Jay, and then we lost Goodwin's in Lake Gregory. Well, that's the main source for food up there. So there was reports going out on social media that people were starving and couldn't get any food, along with the medication issue. So as we got those injects, planning was, working on those and trying to prioritize. So we knew we were going to need to we couldn't get any trucks up the road, we couldn't get any supplies, we were running out of fuel up there, and so we knew we were going to have some challenges. So for the Lodge Chief, she did an outstanding job, but it was challenging at the first 96 hours after the 26th in regards to that. And then staying on top of the information, getting field PIOs out there, getting representatives to the neighborhoods, opening up the Joint Information Center through the county, and trying to stay on top of this. it got so bad, like, there was people, Diesel Brothers, right? Diesel Brothers. I don't know, has anybody heard of the Diesel Brothers out of Montana? Okay. So the Diesel Brothers got a hold of all of this and saw that, people were starving. And they hooked up with, forget the name of the church that does the food delivery, but they were going to send their own helicopters in and do their own sling loads and just said, drop them anywhere they thought they could. And then, hey, everybody will fend for themselves and come get their food. Well, we all know that's not the way it works. There's got to be some organization to it. But they're politically connected and they're very, very popular folks. So it's much better to go along than get along. So we said, yeah, sure, come on out. We want you guys to help. And so we put them to work, like under control and under supervision. They came out for a few days, got their photo ops, boosted their social media to 1 million people, and boom, they were gone. So thanks, Diesel Brothers. Thanks for their help. But it still was better to work with them than work against them, right? So the PIO thing on this was huge, and it was an election year. That was another part of the political portion of this. But the shop, once it got up and running and full board, they did a great job. So I talked a little bit earlier about the ingenuity, and that came forward in this during this event. And these are the National Guard guys, worked up as top fire crews. So this, to your left, the picture is the Arrowhead Resort. You guys probably, most of you probably know the Arrowhead Resort. It's a kind of a staple up there. It's very important to the economic stability of Arrowhead. Well, they had about 7 feet of snow up on the top of the roof, and we were worried that it was going to be compromised. The employees were seeing cracks in the walls. So I got a hold of the crews, said, hey, I need your help. Let's go take a look at this and see what we can do to get the snow off this roof. Well, that's a 12-foot parapet wall right there. So some of these guys said, hey, it'll take us days to get the snow off of here, and shoveling it out and trying to get it over the parapet wall just to go onto another facade on the other side, right? So they said, hey, Chief, what if we grabbed all their heaters out of a patio that they have stored out there, and we turn those on, and we melt the snow off the roof? I said, well, we don't have any other real options unless we're gonna, break people's backs trying to get the snow off there. So I said, let's try it. So that's what you see on the left there. Those guys worked pretty much half the day. They concocted this trap, the sauna up there. Put some of them up there with obviously fire extinguishers, and they just have to bring a hose line up there. That's plastic and fire don't go good. So, but they were able to get the majority of that snow and melt it away, so at least we could take the pressure off the roof. So that's the kind of stuff that happened throughout this entire incident. The one on the right is there's actually a house back there. You just can't see it. It's buried. So I wanted to show how high that snow is and how far these guys had to go back and dig. And they did an amazing job. So then the supply issues. The biggest supply issue, other than the food distribution, which worked itself out in about 4 or 5 days, was the environment. So most of the people that were coming up to help us didn't have the right weather gear to work in this kind of environment. In the Orange County guys come back with a fortune, pretty close. So we had to go and buy snow equipment. We didn't have our snow gear, snowshoes, gloves. So we tried to get a hold of some manufacturers and see how they wanted to help out. And there was a few of those partnerships made, but not enough to handle the entire personnel for the incident. So Chief Anderson, who's the blocks chief, got her town car limit increased to about $500,000. took a couple of our box trucks from the warehouse and went to REI and bought everything that they had. There, went to like Bass Pro, and so they were in the transition. Bass Pro was in the transition to going into like spring summer wear, so they didn't have a lot. But REI still had a bunch of stuff, and so when the guys walked in there, it wasn't there, but this is about still, so it could be a little bit of a fish stick, but. They walked in, there was only one employee in there at the time. The manager was on a lunch break, and they pulled the box trucks up to the front of the store, Ariana and Redbus, and basically told the worker, they were in uniform, hey, we want to buy all the winter stuff that you have, don't care about the sounds, they just want it all. And so, of course, she thought that they were full of it, so she goes, everything we have is on that side of the store is when we're starting to transition, so everything over there is all winter. And they said, okay, we're going to take it all. And she was speechless, right? So she goes, are you serious? Yeah, we're going to take everything you got on that side. So we filled up 2 box trucks at REI and bought all their stuff. The funniest thing about the story is you saw guys out on the line wearing pink and white ski jackets, snow boots. So everybody was kind of dressed differently. But we were able to get it done. The other issue was shovels. There's not a lot of snow shovels in Southern California. So we had to go to the manufacturer, different manufacturers, and try and get snow shovels because the biggest issue as time went on was the snow and the ice. But we didn't want any more clogs since we didn't want any more building damage. So we were trying to get these special rakes that you could shove these poles up into the snow and they could pull lever, brings these rake forks up and forks to them. Well, they didn't have enough of those. They didn't have enough snow to shovel. So we had to go to the manufacturer and we actually had over 1,000 of them delivered via aircraft to airplane to get those out to the guys so we can start doing the work and making access and getting fuel out of the columns and push that's the biggest. Medication. So how we dealt with the medication issue, one was we utilized fishing game a lot with the snowmobiles and get back to these homes to get them medication, but at the beginning we had an issue because there was a chain of custody issue, so we needed to get the medical director involved and the DEA, several other entities to buy off on this. We even attempted to fly medication in by drone. We were successful a couple times, but that wasn't a long-lasting resolution. But really the resolution of the problem was manpower and getting people in there, and then folks helping themselves.
Beautiful.
Right? Folks getting out, the ones that were able and physically able, they needed to get out and start hustling themselves because they needed to. So, and that started happening about 7 days of it. They really, community started coming together and helping each other. The weather changed a little bit, it became warmer, where we couldn't get any bobcats and skid steers and stuff. All of a sudden we're seeing 30 and 40 of them. So the community eventually realized, hey, the fire departments, the National Guard, the emergency services are not going to be able to get to all of us. So there's too many people, it took us around to cover. So they started being resilient and started helping themselves, which really helped us help overall mitigate facilities. So I talked a little bit about the logistical challenges, the cold weather gears. I don't know how much money was spent, but I know it's a lot. And then I still have about 500 snow shovels if anybody's interested. And then, the change was an issue that blew me away in regards to the cost of other things. And then the amount of gear that we still have left over, but I still got to ask that question. Like, what if that drew all the snow jackets? Because we got snow jackets for days. But we need it. And so I was glad that she was able to get the support from the institute. And we see, I haven't heard much condition.
Right.
We dare got sure. Yeah, you can see that everybody's learning.
Suck this. Use that.
So this is basically the peak of the incident. We had about 812 personnel, 11 Type 6 engines, Cat 3s, 18 crews, and then 3 Type 2 crews, 40 front end loaders, and 40 dump trucks. One of the things with the dump trucks is, where are we going to put all the snow? And that was the questions that I had, that Nate had, that Bob had, the ops guy. Where are we going to put all the snow? Well, I had a great idea. It was my great idea, not theirs. To just, let's dump it in the lake. It's water. That's checked over. So the Lake Arrowhead Association wanted nothing to do with us dumping snow at the lake. Even though all the snow that we ended up piling up in the parking lots is ending up in the lake. It could have helped us, seriously could have helped us mitigate this faster if we could just go to Opliger, the dam, the Pompoose, just dump the snow in the lake. But that wasn't the case. So we had to find alternatives. And some of those involved the Forest Service. You know, we talked with the Forest Service, where can we dump, We don't want to ruin, we don't want to create issues in the future with erosion and those types of things. So we basically just found any empty parking lot that we could. We made the biggest mountains of snow. That's what we had to do, get the roads open. We did truck some of it down the hill. And I'm sure that the host at San Bernardino liked their team to Wonderland and let the park up there for you. But that was the only options we had.
Was on everything one clothes.
So the obstacles, the biggest obstacles that we obviously had was gas leaks, fires, and for me, liability mitigation and the risk management process with these guys having to dig in these summer tunnels to get the gas out and mitigate those gas leaks. My mistake at one time we had 92 gas leaks, but that's just not true. I think I was right. Crust Forest, all would have issues. The ironic thing is Big Bear didn't have these issues. And I asked the Big Bear chief, why aren't you guys having fire? Why aren't you having gas leaks? And it's because it's a different gas company, and they have lean-tos over their gas meters. So somebody at some point in time learned something to put a roof over a gas meter when you got a lot of stuff.
That's who's cheap, really.
A lot of building teams on the fly had to create a lot of relationships with Caltrans folks and build those relationships to get roads. There was a thing with Caltrans and county roads. Caltrans wouldn't touch a county road wouldn't touch a Caltrans road. So we had to break down those fences because, hey, we only have so much equipment to clear these roads, so I need you guys working together. Like, why can't you work in a tandem like they do at the ski resorts with the snowcats, right? And groom the mountain quicker. We need to work to do that. So finally, we were able to break down those barriers, and they started helping each other so we could fix the problem, get the arguments up. Yeah. And then there had to be a lot of mending of fences in regards to the feelings. So relationships internally and externally had to be mended and fixed because people got their feelings started being the same. But again, this was nothing that anybody experienced. There's nobody on my department or any departments that helped us that were around when we made our Nobody had any experience in this. There was perfection didn't exist. Ingenuity needed to exist. And collaboration, partnerships, and cooperation absolutely needed to exist. Otherwise, this wouldn't be like, and it wouldn't have got it done. Nobody died because of the storm. There were deaths on the mountain during the storm that was not affiliated to the storm itself, or us being able to get to it. So I'm going to pass this off now to Erin, and she's going to tell you the intel portion of how we were able to accomplish the things we accomplished, because I can tell you without the GIS expertise and the intelligence she was receiving and pushing out to the ops and to the divisions, we would have been able to get it all done.
Thank you, Chief. All right, guys, so I know a lot of you are not necessarily the GIS people, so I'm going to try to make this relatively quick, but I can give you an idea of some of the things that maybe are a little bit possible. Right now, obviously, when we manage wildland incidents, we're very neighborhood dependent, but I can tell you a lot of things are definitely moving into more of those dashboards and those digital products. And this, because of the nature of this incident, we did have a few paper products, but it was very digital heavy. So I will show you a little bit of what we did on that. And give you a quick overview. So just like Chief Tracy talked about, the things that happened on a macro level where we had to really create that collaboration, cooperation, spoke the same language. Same thing was happening for me down in the GIS shop, where I started out just me for a few days and probably found got some help. So I reached out to my partners, obviously. So in the county, we do have a number of different GIS inputs. So we reached out to them, the Sheriff's Department, Public Works, and Caltrans. Some of the hardest ones were actually those utility companies. Getting them to give us their data was like asking for roach codes for missiles. It was real tough to get some of that, but we finally got broke through. So if you're not familiar with Esri, that's kind of the base product, the company that has a number of products that we list on every single fire. These are some of the applications that I used throughout it. So breaking it down into different pieces, data collection was obviously a huge portion. It's a huge portion always. You have all these squirrels running off into a lot of different directions, trying to bring it into one house, doing a number of ways to collect the data and bring a real-time intelligence. And then moving into having like that public engagement side, controlling the narrative and really making it happen. Another piece that was huge in this was this community analyst work. We didn't really know a lot about our community, and something that Chief may not have fully expressed is that our communities are really disadvantaged, and they are a little dilapidated in some areas, so they're not all the Lake Arrowhead or the Faith Bear. We do have some older communities where they have really dilapidated infrastructure, which is really what led to this bigger problem. And we were able to find a lot of that out, community analysts, and see where our at-risk populations were and focus. Something else that's huge for you guys at all the time, as we guys have the disaster response program, whether you're a client or not, you can call them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they will answer the phone and send you support. So we got support from them through a company called Black Sky, who gave us very high resolution imagery of the areas that we had as what's concerned. So a couple of products I'm going to show you are all internal products to develop situational awareness. I'm not really going to show you the external ones that we use for the public, but one of the first things was, like I said, it was really a moving target for me. Constantly something new that we were focusing on is our attention. So one of the first things was bad road access, right? So we had Public Works doing their thing, and Caltrans doing their thing, and just getting them to talk the same language and say, this is what a clear local road was, and this is not passable, was a challenge. And so we got that up and running, and we had them feeding in data from 2 different places, as well as our field observers collecting that data and bringing it together to give us that intelligence. Obviously, this is zoomed out on like the whole area, but if you get in much closer, you'll get sort of a better view of what that looked like. So like here, for example, it's a little bit closer on what those roads, whether they're navigated or not. The one on the right doesn't really show it because I took this well after the incident, but this was our operational intelligence application was where everything landed. So it was really a tool mostly for our ops chiefs, but also for our field guys to be able to see everything coming into one house. We had the AVL coming in, we had a tracker, Talcrane came with figures for us and gave us the feeds to all the local data, as well as our CAD instances were coming in, those joint information calls were coming in, the StarHawk data, Jim's team data, it was all coming into one house so that you on the ground could see what was going on around you at any time, as well as the crews in real time looking around you. This one you really can't see in this picture, but this was another tool that was developed so that you could do work on that priority tasking. Obviously, things that are coming in, we're going to have our medical, people who need medicine is much more important than somebody who just wants a cheeseburger that day. So we went through this, and it was a way to sort of show all our crews working at the same time and make sure that they were tasked appropriately and working in certain areas. So damage assessment. Damage assessment came in as a big one, obviously, because this kind of was the biggest problem we had. So we had two sides to it, which our damage assessment team was going through, collecting as much data as they could, and verifying the ones that were coming from the public, as well as we launched a survey for the public to send in their information to us, because obviously the vast majority of the data that was coming in was, or damage, was all internal, just like you see in this. I think this was official. Yeah, it's traffic. So the pizza place, I guess they reported a sound, and all of a sudden we went and investigated, and either cabin collapsed. So they wouldn't have been able to see that. So, and then there was a small tool, hard to see there as well. It was kind of like the DMAT, like a portable shield on it. That can be saved evidence for that. Okay, so final thing I want to show you is talk about that moving target. On the very end of the incident, we found out there were going to be rains, of course. So it wasn't just a snow problem, it became a rain problem. So we spent some good time in the GIS shop doing some flood analysis, and working with our ops team, create those management actions points, just like you would for like a case project process or ISAP database. So going through that, looking at where our trigger points were with the USGS flood gauges, and giving that information to our guys, and then setting out those management action points. So if we hit that trigger point, here's what we're going to deploy, just like you would provide. And then our guys had a tool to be able to visualize, where it was occurring, where the flood channels were, where are identified, and get points of it. That's what I have.